So look, today is my normal therapy session. You've seen me and Stacy before, doing the power of perspective, and it's all polished and perfect and all that stuff. In this scenario, today it was like my normal therapy session. I was like, "Do you care if I push record on a camera?" And Stacy said no. She didn't mind. So I just want to have a conversation with you about all this stuff going on from the perspective of a psychotherapist, obviously. That's why I'm here, letting all y'all into my business. And then from the other perspective of you are a white woman, obviously, and I'm a black man, and we can have a conversation, and a safe conversation, because we have years of trust and honesty. So what do you think about all this, Stacy?
I'm sad. I'm heartbroken. I'm struggling with being white at this moment. I mean, I know a lot of amazing white people, but I feel bad that I've been afforded privileges because of the color of my skin. That is why I feel bad.
Were you aware of those? Were you aware that you were being afforded privilege, or has this moment made you go, "Oh my," I'm just wondering. That's an honest question. Were you like,
yeah. I didn't know when I was young, but I definitely know now. And I've known probably, in my adult life.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think's been interesting for me is in my upbringing, my parents, they just believed like your people are people. And I was telling somebody a story the other day. 2 of my best friends were named Pamela and Rachel, and they were black. And a couple of kids asked me on the yard, like, "Why are you friends with Pamela and Rachel?" And I was just like, because they're my friends. And I had no idea.
This was how old?
What they meant. 3rd grade.
Oh.
And I went home and I told my mom that these kids who were white were giving me a hard time about being friends with Pamela and Rachel. And my mom goes, "It's because they're black." And I was so confused. And I think my memory is that she tried to explain it to me, but I didn't understand. But I now look back and I say, wow, that was in front of me at a really young age, and I'm a white person. So what was happening to Pamela and Rachel and you and other stuff on the yard?
Yeah.
If they were saying that to me.
Yeah. When you said what was happening to y'all at that young of an age, there were things that happened to me growing up, and I just kind of thought, this is just probably a part of what I'm gonna have to deal with, because our family in general was in the white world quite a bit, and so there were just moments that I kind of started to let roll off my back, and I feel guilty for not, as I grew up, not learning righteous ways to address it, because I just started, because of the culture I'm in and what I do for a living, I kind of started to let those nuances roll off my back. And this is a moment where I'm like, oh, I don't need to do that on behalf of myself and on behalf of all black people, especially black men, because of the stereotype that comes along with it. But yeah, so anyway, that it was introduced to me at a young age, this whole thing that we're going through right now. But I feel a responsibility in this moment to just address it, and we can address it in ways like this, because I want to know. I mean, I was curious just to know your vantage point, like from that point, 3rd grade, getting told that Pamela and what's the other? Rachel, like, why would you be friends with them? Did that subconsciously set in your mind? Is that the moment where you were like, we're different? Like, was that the moment you're like, uh-oh?
Yeah, I always knew I knew they were different, right? And one of them was a Jehovah's Witness, and so she couldn't celebrate Halloween or birthdays, and so
yeah, this kind of different.
Yeah,
right. The other kind of different.
And so, you're right. No, but I knew that I didn't mean that as but I'm saying yes,
I know.
She was very different from me in lots of ways, and I did know that, but I didn't understand what that meant, or that I didn't understand even that the kids were really being mean. I didn't understand that it was about race at that point. And so I guess the reason that I brought it up is my big preaching now has been that they say that kids are aware of differences by like age 3 or 4. And so people have to be taught right early.
Period.
And
that's huge.
And I want to believe I taught my kids right early, but but things haven't changed. And that's part of what I want, usually when we do these, you're asking me the questions, but I do want to ask you, how do you deal with, I mean, you interact with a lot of white people, right? How do you, and you're close with them and whatever, but how do you deal with that, the anger and the frustration? What are your techniques?
Oh man, my technique has been wrong, and that technique has been to ignore it.
Yeah.
That has been my technique, to ignore it and push through and be strong or give what I have to offer, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, he has something to offer, which is a part of it, but ignoring it is not right. And I have. It's really weird. Like right now, I feel emotional and sad about the fact that I have ignored it at times, because I'm just like, yo, I mean, I always felt like I can't do anything about it. This is the world I'm in, and these people, I can't change their minds, so I'm just gonna, but I do believe that conversations like this, even though we just started it, it can change people's minds. So now I feel a responsibility. I can't have a platform and just be posting about new songs and family pictures. That can't be what I'm doing in this moment. If I have something to say, if I have a platform to say it on, then I should say it. And if I have relationships like this, which this is a unique kind of scenario, like us sitting here right now, there are things that I could whisper, there are things that I could yell that coming from, if Stacey whispered them, they'd be louder than me. And vice versa. There are things that she could yell, and if I whispered it, it would be louder than her because of the way we look and who we represent. And so I want us to be sitting here and talking about this. You mentioned one of your friends, was it one of your friends said the All Lives Matter thing or something? Like,
yeah. I was telling Anthony that I have discovered that a lot of my friends who I actually think are compassionate and educated people don't completely understand. And one of my friends was doing the hashtag All Lives Matter stuff, and I literally called her on the phone. I was like, okay, first of all, you need to take that down, and secondly, I need to explain to you. And thankfully someone sent me that amazing metaphor where it's like your house is on fire. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
And but all houses could be on fire, but this is the house that's on fire. And it's like, that whole metaphor. I think I educated her, which actually made me feel really good.
Which is it should.
But and that's what I'm trying to do. But I want to go back to something that you said a minute ago about ignoring things. And obviously I'm a white person, so I don't know what your experience is, but I can talk to you in general about like adversity and trauma and ignoring. I mean, first of all, you and I kind of talked about this at some point. I think some people were trained or conditioned to ignore stuff.
Yep.
But I also think we're all just trying to seek peace. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, and we do this in all kinds of situations, we think, oh, it's just more peaceful if I stay quiet. Only the silence perpetuates the problem.
Yeah.
And so if you do ignore something, it doesn't matter, it could be a race issue, it could be something in your personal relationship at home. If you keep your mouth shut, it sends the message that people can persist. And so this is why I am so glad that everybody is, I feel like the voices are getting louder now. I don't know, do you feel that way?
Yeah, I definitely feel like the voices are getting louder. And in a lot of ways, in most ways, it's in a righteous way. Like, this needs to be heard. And I really feel, with the whole ignoring thing, I thought that that's what I was supposed to be doing is ignore them, what they think isn't worth your time, and just press forward and kill the game, like kill your ministry, that. Killing it is one part of it, but ignoring it is not. That's just something that I'm not doing that anymore. But the way I face it head on is by stuff like this. This is my nature, is wanting to understand people's experiences in general.
Right.
And that's just how I am.
Right.
So this is the way I face it head on, is by saying, nah, that's not gonna work. But facing it head on with people. You can read people in a few minutes. Their intent, even if they're confused or like, what do I say, or when I read that intent on you, like when I got here, some of the stuff you were saying, I was like, that's your intent is to understand. So why would I respond to that with with an edge that I don't want to talk about it if your intent is to understand. So
yeah, I have a real sensitivity right now of not wanting to hurt people. I mean, I think I have that sensitivity all the time, or upset people, and I think that that's what I was saying to you. But interestingly enough, little known fact, I actually teach cultural awareness workshops, usually with a Black therapist, the two of us, to, mixed rooms.
Yeah.
And I still am learning. And so one of the things I'm learning is about how I want to be involved and I want to help and I want to ask questions, but I also, I don't want to offend people and make people angry who I feel like are already suffering. And that's kind of what I was saying to you. So I feel like it's it's sensitive to talk about.
It's very sensitive. And going back, speaking of sensitive, the all lives matter thing, there's a story in Luke 15 in the Bible where Jesus basically says, I will go, if I lose one sheep, if I have 100 sheep and I lose one, I will leave the 99 to go find that one. It's not that the 99 don't matter. It's not that the 99 don't matter.
I love that.
But I'm going to go, that one matters that much that I'm going to go find it. And they will be fine. I'll be right back. But I'm going to go find it right in this moment. And that's why the all lives matter, saying that, we know that the 99 matter, but the one is lost, like in this moment. And I'm treading over my words so lightly, but that's why right now that can almost be offensive, because it's like, no, this one is caught up over here in vines, entangled and dealing with a bunch of mess. And so to take the attention, to try to pull the attention off that's why I was like, don't. And I'm so glad that you said that, because honestly, you saying that to your friend can be perceived differently than coming from me, because they can look at me and be like, you would say that, but coming from you, it's different. And I think there are certain things in this moment, man, it's just so interesting, that are just heard differently depending who they're coming from. And that's why because I'm
yeah. And I also think, and part of what I explained to her that I think people are missing is pay attention to the people who are suffering.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of laughing about it because I was sort of surprised, because like I said, she's like a compassionate person, but she is not suffering. So and she certainly should, she needs to be thinking about the people who need to be lifted up right now.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just think that I literally never thought that our country would be in this big of a mess. And yet I feel a little hopeful, because I always know that anger is like a motivator. And a lot of times, like, I think, how did women get rights?
Yeah.
It's because we protested. I mean, you're a guy, but you know what I mean? We protested and we had to fight. And I think that's what's got to happen now, right? It's like people have to speak up, get angry, and hopefully change will happen.
Yeah, and I feel like it is happening. I believe that it's about the nuances. Like if you have hundreds of millions of little changes happening in conversations like this, some people are like, what can you do? I believe that you can, I've said it the other day, if empathy becomes part of your modus operandi, if that becomes part of your thing, if understanding people, if a bunch of people do that, then we're already changing the whole foundation of our country. And there's a lot of other things that need to be done. I'm not saying that's the only thing, but what you can do in this moment is have conversations like this and help people, help the understanding of why this is even happening, help that happen.
So there was this interesting conversation on a Facebook page that I saw. I happened to, I have a lot of Facebook friends, but one of the guys, the police officer who's white, and the other guy was his black friend. And he posted on there, and we live in Los Angeles, and he posted, "It is killing me that I have to be out there standing against people with, rubber bullets when I actually want to be on the other side marching with them. Yeah. It is killing me, and I just wish these people would stop and ask me and see that I'm not one of those cops," right? And his black friend wrote, "And I wish people would stop and ask me, because I am not a bad person."
Right.
And then the guy goes, "You're right, man." And there started to be this whole conversation, and of course, in the middle of it, were people saying like, "I hate cops," and
I'm sure.
But the two of them were beginning to come to an understanding that I think a lot of people don't get to have.
Right.
They don't, because they don't have a conversation.
Right. And I think that the understanding, I 100% believe that. I believe in this moment that with you right now, the understanding of what what white privilege is something that we should talk about, because I have some friends of mine that are like on the level of activists, and I've been calling them and be like, what's up? Like, educate me. Just educate me. And I want to know from you. They've educated me from that perspective, from our perspective, but I want to know from you, that privilege thing. Are you aware, like, as you go through your daily life, are you like, you know what, I understand what's going on? Do you feel that?
Yeah, I mean, I am sadly aware. I will say this. I think a lot of my white friends aren't aware. I think they don't think about it.
Right.
But like a friend of mine, her son got in the car to drive up north about 7 hours, and he's black. And I thought to myself,
can I just say something really quick? Remember that story.
Okay.
You just said your friends don't think about it. And I don't mean that this is going to sound bad. You're going to be like, what? And I'm looking at where we are right now, like where we are in this beautiful place, and the majority of people here. And if you didn't want to think about it, you don't have to think about it. Like, you don't have to.
Yeah, they don't have to.
Because their life is
You're
insular.
Totally right.
But,
and I should be careful. Yes.
No, but you're right. Like, they don't have to.
They don't. No, we don't. No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, you don't have to think about it. The difference is we have to think about it.
Yes.
Like, unless you want to live in something
totally
this
right.
big, you have to think about it. So
right.
that is, to me, is one of the major, that's why I stopped you, because that's one of the major things is you have to make an effort to actually think about it. Because if not, it could just be like,
I think, okay.
You dancing over your words?
No, I'm dancing because I'm not sure. I'm trying to think about, I have like 40 things that I want to say. Is really why I'm dancing.
Okay.
One is that I do think about it because I'm so close with so many people who have to face it every day, that I have been now, I've been taught. I think about it. But I think most people don't, and most people don't have to. And frankly, I want to think about it. I feel like it makes me fight harder. But, and like I said, I'm still learning, but you're right. I could just go about my day and not think about it. And, and that's what I was going to tell you this story that kind of fits what we're just talking about right now is, so my friend just sent her son up north to drive 5 hours alone, and he's black. And I thought to myself, wow, on any given day, it's probably hard for her to send him out in a car alone, and she's going to worry about him. But right now, with the protests and everything, he is way more of a target. And she can't relax until he gets to the other end of his destination. Whereas my kid, I just put her in the car. I might worry that she'd have a flat tire or not have water, but I'm not worried that she's going to get pulled over and, and thrown to the floor or whatever. And so that is where I become very aware of my privilege, and I did think about that. But I know that there's tons of situations that I don't think about it. And I'm trying to do better.
But the fact that you want to do better and you want to think about it, I think that right there is a huge part of this conversation. I mean, that's it. Just hearing that I want to think about it. I'm aware that I don't have to worry about my kids in the same way. And I think when you talk about that, it hits home because of all my nephews. The other day I posted a picture of them, and I have been in the conversations where it's literally talking to them about how to take your hoodie off when you're walking through the neighborhood, say, my parents live right there. You know about walking your dog? Like, you know what I mean? That's a normal conversation. My sisters live like this because now they're big. They look intimidating because of just their stature.
Right, and you should be able to wear a hoodie. But you know what? when we're talking about like privilege, like I'm probably annoying my white friends now. Like I should probably, I was hesitating also because a lot of my friends I think are really aware and sensitive and conscious. But I was talking to a friend of mine, and she goes, I was walking in my neighborhood after curfew and I realized I was wearing a hoodie and I shouldn't wear my hoodie. I said, you're white.
She was a white lady saying that?
Yeah. I said, you're a white female.
But the fact that when you put that hoodie up, you probably can't, well, I don't know if she's wearing shorts, but that means she's so aware that if they can't see what I look like,
because she had a face mask on and pants.
Yo, that to me screams, I know what is happening. If she's scared to wear a hoodie because they can't see her what she looks like. Yo,
Right.
that's wild.
Right.
That is, and I think that just to have those conversations with these sweet young men who I know how they're being raised it makes me get like, yeah, I'm so happy to be able to face this as hard as it is and as sad as it makes me at times. I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I have to use my voice. If I use my voice to sing all over the place, I have to use it for this. This is just as or more important than me singing worship songs. Like, does my life look like what I'm singing about? And this is what I'm singing about.
No, I'm really grateful that you use your platform for things like this.
Yeah, you told me. Sorry, were you?
No, go ahead.
You told me about a friend of yours. I think you may have mentioned she's mixed, or she's mixed, and somewhere along the line she was told to say, I'm white, or I have white. Like, what was that story?
She's a very light-skinned black person, which, by the way, she has said to me that she doesn't feel like she fits in anywhere. Because people sometimes think she's like Puerto Rican and white. It's very hard to tell. But she told me that she always says like, oh, well, I'm basically white. And that now she has a lot of guilt about that.
Because she was saying black. She was saying it to experience this. Like, she was saying it to, yeah. So at some point, and I'm going to try to say this right, because I've been talking to my friends who, again, have that activist energy, which I'm down. I'm like, yo, I should have been as educated as you are. But they basically, and again, I'm gonna try to say this right, Ashley, because she's, but whiteness way back when people were immigrating to this country, you know, people, when they first came from Italy, they were considered to be immigrants. Like, you're Italian,
right.
That whole thing. But somewhere along the line, it became like the light-skinned people became white, like, and whiteness was associated with certain privileges. Like, that's what it was. So you don't
and
hear
it
us,
was,
and that's what it was.
That's
and
part of what's crazy.
That's the foundation that we're dealing with now. Is that they weren't considered Italian American, Dutch American, French American, whatever. It just became English American. It's like, those are white people, and this is what they get. Everybody else is this. And as much as you try to make that. To be like, what's going on? That's what's going on. That is what's going on. Is that like, I think they had to like apply to be considered to be a obviously a citizen, but part of their citizenship was, now that you're here, you're one of these.
Right, and you get all of these
and you
extra
get all
bonus
of this.
things.
Yes,
right.
And as much as now we try to go, no, it's not that. The foundation it was built on is that, like
not a
we
fair
all
chance.
have a history. We all have a story.
Right.
All of us have descended from Africa, and I have other stuff in me and all that, but we don't. That's not a part of the story as much as you're here in America and you're white, and this is what white people get, and now we're dealing with that head on, which I think should be dealt with head on. So I want to know. I want people to know, when you hear whiteness or like, or white privilege and all these things that initially to somebody who doesn't know can sound like this. It sounds real harsh and like aggressive. That's what it's referring to, is all that time where if your skin looks like this, you get that, and everybody else doesn't, especially us. Like, they don't get nothing.
Right. So way back when, white people got like parcels of land, and they got all these extra things. But now we get more of a free pass on if we don't have our seatbelt on in the car.
Yeah.
Like,
but the parcels of land thing. Sorry, I'm listening.
No, that
created equity that we did not.
Right,
we don't have.
Right. So you end up starting out down here financially.
Yes.
Because of the land.
It started out down here, and why can't you just catch up? And it's like, wait, that's not how. That's not. What do you mean? Like, you started by giving. You got equity when you got here. You got equity. We got. You know what we got. And then when slavery was abolished, we didn't get nothing. Like, it was just like,
right, not
free.
Like, here's $1,000 for you. Here's $1,000.
No,
right.
Figure it out. So I've seen a guy put up a video of some kids, and he said, if you've had this, step forward. If you had this, step forward. And there were some white kids that didn't step forward with the parents.
I did that in one of my cultural diversity workshops.
Yeah.
And literally, when you saw the white people move, it was like, I mean, it really magnifies it when you see movement.
Yeah, and some didn't. A lady put on my Instagram, Anthony, this is not fair because some white people grew up like this, and I get that. Some didn't get everything handed to them, and that privilege.
But no, there's privilege and there's privilege.
Yeah, but either way, it's
that's
privilege.
A different privilege.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's why, because I have people say that to me all the time. like I wasn't raised wealthy. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, yes, but I was still raised white.
Yeah. And that came from her. I didn't say that. And that's what I mean, where she can say some stuff that
I don't know if
well, no.
I got away with it. I guess I don't know
Yeah.
if I should be saying that, but that it is true.
No, but you that's your experience. I mean, I think there are certain things that you can say that will be heard differently because you're saying them from your experience in your heart. When I say it, I didn't experience that. When somebody has had the same issue or gone through what you've gone through, and they speak into it, it's different from somebody else. So there are certain things that you can say and certain things that I can say in this moment that I think are so important and necessary. And so that was just one of them that you just
No,
did.
I
I'm just
really
like,
think that's an important message because a lot of white people I know have said to me, like, I wasn't raised privileged. And I go, no, yeah, you weren't in that kind of privilege.
like in a bank account kind of way.
Right. But that's not what we're talking about. And I think that people don't realize that.
Yeah, they really do think, I know that. I know because the message I got in my DMs was that. It was, I didn't have money, I didn't have this, and I didn't this, so this just isn't about, and I'm like, oh man. But you just said it. It's not about your bank account. It's
Right.
It's about what you inherited because of this tone. What you inherited because of your skin, which is wild.
Yeah, and by the way, one of my most wealthy black friends as a teenager had a BMW, which he, by the way, was working like 3 jobs to do that. And so he was like money privileged, but he always made sure that he wore a collared shirt because he was afraid that he would, basically be pulled over if he was in like a hoodie or t-shirt. And he also kept his freaking driver's license on the passenger seat or in the glove, like somewhere where it was like, not the glove box, but the outdoor thing, so that he could quickly
grab it without having
over.
to listen. He was afraid that what was going to happen to him is something that happened to me, which is when I got my car, I got pulled over to prove that was my car. I never told you that.
That's what he was. No, you
Yeah,
didn't.
they were like, sir, we're just
Right.
checking. We've had a lot of stolen cars. We're just checking to make sure that your car. And I was just like,
See, that
this
makes
is like
me sick.
this is like 6 months ago. Yeah, this is recently when I got when my.
I don't know why I just look so surprised.
Because,
I keep being surprised.
Well, because and in that moment, I
You became
want to
aware.
apologize to everybody watching that in that moment I didn't use my voice to be like, yo, this just happened and we have to stop that. I'll see you this weekend for worship, but this just happened and this is and I commit to everybody watching and to you and my family that I will use my voice in a righteous way in this moment. But yeah, that happened to me. There's been a few moments that happened.
And I
stuff
think
like
you,
that
I don't know,
happened.
were you afraid if you used your voice too much that you
Oh.
possibly could have gotten in more trouble? I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of what you have to worry about.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my friends last night who is mouthy. He's a white guy. He works in the government, and he is mouthy, and it's fun for him. And we were talking about getting pulled over and me talking the way he talks, because he'll antagonize intentionally and know what he's talking about. And while he was talking, I was like, I can't do that. I could not get pulled over in my car, and they say prove it to me, and be like, what do you mean prove it to you? I don't need to prove. Like, let me try that and see what happens. And that's what we're talking about in this moment. And yes, when they pulled me over, I had to explain to them everything I'm doing, like my registration's in my glove box, the other guys on the other side, like just hovering over the car. I mean, it was very like an intense moment. I'm like, I'm just gonna get the registration that says my name all over it. But I felt like one wrong move and they're gonna drag you out of this car. I felt that feeling.
Yeah.
So
I can't even imagine. I'm so sorry.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. But that's the issue we're dealing with. We have to have these conversations that make people see what it really is, that help people, not make, but that hopefully help people to see what we're really dealing with.
And I just want to say, I don't think that, I think some people just don't know. I don't think it's like bad people necessarily.
Right.
I think, to your point, they don't have to think about it, or they don't take the time to like put themselves in someone else's shoes.
Empathy.
Yeah. And so they just, like my All Lives Matter friend, I'm telling you, she's a compassionate, educated person. And I don't believe she's racist. I think she didn't understand.
Right.
And so I feel like the more we can start to help people understand.
Right.
And now let me ask you this, because I was just about to say, what about the people who it's like, they don't want to understand, they don't want to listen? Is it just like do you think it's not worth
I think
fighting them? Because I just keep talking.
I think to keep talking is great, but I think these conversations, it's like it becomes a viral thing that can influence people that you would never get to, I think. Like,
Or maybe you plant a little seed.
yes, you plant a seed, and there are seeds that can be planted from these conversations. I really believe that seeds will be planted from this conversation just because your face is in it. Like, honestly, and I think that the people who don't want to listen now might listen to somebody else. Like, if I have something I want to text somebody, and I text it to a bunch of people, most likely it's going to get to a bunch. I don't even have certain numbers in my phone. There are certain people I cannot reach because I don't connect with them.
Right.
And so having the conversation with the people who want to understand will lead to it going out into the people who don't want to understand. And I think we can become the majority. Our experience can become a majority, not by the way that it's been experienced in life, but a conversation had by the people who live out here that don't have to think about it because of us having this. And maybe the people who don't want to understand will be like, let me listen in on this conversation because now everybody's talking about it.
Well, no, you're right. And I just have a need right now to say, this is so not political. I had a couple people say to me, you're putting all this political stuff on your Instagram. I thought you weren't political. And I was like, this isn't political. It's racism.
Yeah. It's like
not about politics.
On a human level. Yeah. I mean, this goes beyond all of that. Yes, we're addressing all that.
Political message.
Yes.
I know that.
Yes.
Don't misunderstand me. But this is about people.
Yeah.
So,
Bottom line, this is about people. So before we wrap up, because I want some of my private time back with my therapist here. I want you, Stacey, as the psychotherapist that has helped me for the last 3 years of my life, to give some people some practical steps as we walk through all this. Like, we're walking through Corona. I haven't really talked to you in person since Corona, riots, all this. What are some practical things we can do that can just help us check in here during this time?
Yeah. So part of what's hard about this right now is I think the practical things for a Black person are somewhat different. I think the practical things for a Black person are different than the practical things for a white person in some ways. Because I think, and this feels weird saying as a white person, but I do think that Black people need to teach and educate their children about this in a different way than I need to teach and educate my child.
It's a different messaging.
A different messaging.
Yeah.
But that said, I think some of the messaging is that we need to talk to the young people. We need to tell the young people what has been happening historically.
Yeah.
And what is happening today and why things are happening, so that those are the kids that are going to like rise up and, be the adults of tomorrow. And so I think that that's an important message. I think that we all need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. It's that thing where if you don't put the oxygen mask on, I say it all the time.
No, it's great.
You don't have to give to others. And so we need to take care of ourselves. I think we need to have conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just, in addition, I know I asked you what you think. I think you, with the family, you mentioned sitting around and having conversations with your family. I believe, my dad has said this my whole life, this starts with the individual that moves to family, that moves to church, that moves to, that is what it is. I love that. So the conversation, and not just a conversation, because that only goes so far. I believe a conversation that results in a call to action, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be like huge. Conversation, call to action. Kids, we're gonna have this. We're gonna watch this together. We're gonna look up some resources, and let's all read this. Let's look up YouTube videos and understand more of the Black experience for the white family. You get what I'm saying? Calls to action. That to me will result in a changed culture.
I think that's so important. And it's so funny because I've been saying basically the same thing, where you've got to do it in your house, the schoolhouse, the spiritual house, work, the work house, whatever that is. And the more, I totally agree. And
Sorry,
I know, no, this is good. You didn't come here. It's good. But this is how we talk. They're seeing it. And to your point, I think it's also about making I think the call to action can be smaller things too, about talking to people and reading more books written by Black people and going to more of those restaurants. I don't know, like going out of your way
to diversify your experience.
Yes.
Going out of your way to diversify your experience. That to me is key. Your experience and your understanding.
Yeah, learn and diversify. Right.
Yeah.
Learn, understand.
Yeah. And what's crazy is that the people in general, if we were talking finances, the people who diversify are the ones who end up having more than the people who don't. And I believe that in your experience, we live in a country where we have the privilege of having a diversified understanding and a diversified experience, and that to me makes the wealth of what you have go up exponentially if you engage in a diversified experience.
Yeah, and I think that whole thing about being open-minded, I think a lot of people just get set in their ways. And so it's about that. But I just want to throw into all of these tips, like, all the racism stuff's going on, COVID, quarantine, economy is struggling right now. It's really important that everybody reach out to their support systems. There's a lot of research that says that people who are dealing with adversity, who have support, do better. And so support could be like a friend or a counselor or a family member. It also could be some other kind of an expert, like a financial expert or a medical expert. But I think we all need to sort of find our support so that we can unify again. I feel like our country is so torn apart.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad at least you and I were like still unified.
Yeah. This is a for sure thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thank you, Stacy, for letting me just set up a phone and a camera in here. Just appreciate it. And y'all, this is the real Stacy Kaiser. That's your Instagram, right? No, the Stacy Kaiser. The real.
Only reason I'm the Stacy Kaiser is because Stacy Kaiser was taken.
Oh, okay.
But I get made fun of for that.
Oh no, you're like, I am the Stacy. No, she is the Stacy Kaiser. Anyway, I'm gonna go now and get back to discussing every detail of my life with this woman here who I respect and who has helped me exponentially and yeah, has broadened my whole experience of life. So
I want to say something to you too. Thank you for bringing people together. I think you do it with your family. I think you do it with your music, and I think you're doing it right now with your platform. And
thanks,
I appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm an emotional guy. Okay, see y'all later. Hope this helps.